I wanted to switch really quickly and sort of talk about education. Specifically, what is the district doing to support our schools in District 10 in the Bayview? And if you could talk a little bit about the potential school closure sort of moving forward.
Well, from a big picture standpoint, we passed Prop G, and that is going to be providing up to $1 million for schools with the biggest gaps in achievement that need the most support. There's an RFP process that just took place, and all of our Bayview elementary schools receive some level of resources depending on what they applied for. So that's the good news, because hundreds of thousands of dollars are going into our elementary schools for sure, to help address some of the things that have really been increasing the achievement gap. But obviously we still have a long way to go. The city does provide resources through the Public Education and Enrichment Fund, third for sports, libraries, arts and math, a third the district can use in any way it wants, and a third for early childhood education. So those things are still happening. That support is still happening. Obviously, the property tax set aside through the Department of Children, Youth and Families provides a lot of services that support young people in our schools, particularly a lot of your out-of-school programs. So the city has made major investments. At the same time, it's not enough. And to your point, there's a conversation right now about school closures. I haven't been excited about the process. I think it is not transparent. And in fact, simultaneously, while the district is talking about closing schools and merging schools, and most certainly schools in Bayview, and not just Bayview, but other areas of District 10 have been targets for years for closure. They also want to reach out to me to talk about supporting facilities bond. And I can't in good conscience see how I would support a facilities bond when they're talking about closing schools in my district. They said they made a promise that none of the monies from the bond will go towards schools that are on the closure list, which tells me you already got an idea which schools you want to close. So they're not being transparent in how they're operating. It's harder for us as members of the Board of Supervisors to really do much to control the process or to change the process. But most certainly, I've attended the sessions. I am involved in learning as much as I can, and we'll be prepared to work with community on a response once we find out what the district is really trying to do. But the transparency most certainly has been lacking.
No, I appreciate that. And I know you sort of came up through the school board. So you sort of, at least then, had the inside scoop, I think, on a lot of like the inner workings. So thank you for sort of leveraging that expertise, being able to read between the lines for us, because those of us who don't know, right, this is not our everyday job. We need that like level of insight.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why, I can't imagine any process you go into it without some ideas, and at least conceptually, of what you want to do. And I would rather the district be transparent with community about that versus saying they are going in with an open mind and they don't have a clue as to what direction they want to go in. Because this is very real to families, and this is very real to communities. Yes, enrollment is down. Yes, the numbers are down for so many different reasons. COVID being a major part of that, but at the same time, being transparent so that we can do things in a manner that are equitable and efficient for everybody is going to get us a better result, even when people are not going to be happy and people are going to be upset. But most certainly, being upfront and building trust is the way to go forward.
I know in other parts of the country, we've seen this trend, school closures, developers coming in, buying the land, converting it, and adding to gentrification. Do you see that as a potential threat here in the Bayview or in District 10?
Well, the Bayview is under threat of gentrification for a lot of reasons already. We have the most affordable property in San Francisco, if you can even use that word affordable in San Francisco in the same sentence. But it is more affordable in our community than other places. We are doing the most building of housing and affordable housing, so people are naturally moving in to Southeast sector communities because we have places available for them to move into. We've already lost a lot of our population due to a school system, due to lack of options for jobs, due to the fact that we've just had an increasing high cost of living that is driving all folks out, and most certainly folks who have existed in our community where we had the highest home ownership for a very long time. So definitely concerned about gentrification continuing to happen, to be accelerated. I mean, we've done everything we can from a legislative standpoint, from right to return work to making sure that we do have the most affordable housing, so that we do provide opportunities for people to come back to the city and people to stay in the city, working aggressively to get our certificate of preference holders who were pushed out to have first dibs on new housing that is coming to the city. Strategies like that are gonna be major as we move forward. Our home assistance programs that are in place, some of the recommendations like homeowner assistance, like making sure that we carve out space and opportunity for populations to have first dibs and opportunity at new housing. Those types of policies are going to have to become reality. Fighting Prop 209 is going to be a continued fight, but there are things I am working on as a mechanism to fund some of the reparations recommendations. And when we finalize some of those strategies, most certainly we'll be informing community about what that step is and what that plan is, so that we can realize some of the recommendations that will come from the hard work of the task force.
Is there any way that you can share it so that we could support you?
Well, definitely just working with the city attorney on trying to find legit ways to funnel resources into a reparations pot of money. So there's no finality to that, but most certainly as soon as there's something that is tangible, I'll be ready and excited to share it with everybody.
And just so you know, because of course, being on the task force, heading economic empowerment, just saw today that of course the right wing conservatives they're coming for us. So they're in the process of suing Evanston, right? One of the first reparations programs to sort of be successful, and calling it unconstitutional, right? And so that's something that I think we need to really rally against, sort of moving forward. But I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's really important. We had a
Yeah.
couple. Yep.
So go ahead. No, I was just going to say, most certainly we are going to be sued for the work that we're doing. But we're doing everything we can to, be as tight as possible when that litigation comes. But there are people who are going to do everything in their power to that this doesn't happen.
Do you have a question in the chat and wanted to know if you knew the answer? Has Lucky's renewed their lease because it was supposed to end this year?
I will follow up on that because I didn't think the lease was ending this year, but I will follow up on that.
Right. I didn't want to sort of shift us to public safety. What measures are being taken to address sort of public safety in the Bayview? Are we free to explore non-police options? Has that sort of been put forward? Would love to sort of get your thoughts, feedback, direction on public safety in the Bayview.
Well, some of you may know we have an extensive District 10 safety plan that really focuses on stopping and mediating any violence. Here in the district, it was developed with the Public Defender's Office, the Police Department, the District Attorney's Office, our Street Violence Intervention and Prevention Program, several nonprofits. And the focus is really making sure that there are jobs available for folks in the community, that there are people responding anytime any incidents of violence may occur in one neighborhood, so that there's no retaliations that happen. There are interventions that are happening daily in our schools to make sure young people have things to do, that they are supported, that they have counselors and people and case managers that are connected to them to keep them safe, keep them positive, and keep them from trying to do anything that may harm themselves or community. Most certainly, I just met with the new captain, Conieris, yesterday, just to get him up to speed and some of the things that we're doing, making sure that obviously all of our communities are safe. Anytime we have areas that may be considered hotspots, making sure there's a response there, making sure that PD is engaging with community. But most certainly, the major focus for everything we do around public safety has to be a combination of things that don't involve the police department. Police cannot handle all of the concerns of community. There's a responsibility that we all have as neighbors and members of this community. And one of the things that we've been able to do, of course, is to have our meetings in community forums like this. There's places that people can go to engage with police department. I know the Bayview station meets monthly and the captain talks about what's going on, because community policing is something that actually is something that I see as positive, but it has to happen in a way, in a manner where we have officers on foot beats, we have officers on bikes and engaging with community, speaking with community, because that tends to, of course, develop trust. And of course, the visibility keeps incidences down. I am happy to report that we have had a less violent year so far than we've had since I've been in office, particularly around shootings and homicides. And the goal is to make sure that that trend continues. And a lot of that is when incidents are occurring or when people see things that may result in concerns or issues that lead to possible violence. We do have responses from PD, responses from my office, responses from our street violence intervention and prevention team that come out and alleviate issues before they happen. And a lot of people are not necessarily aware of how much SBIP does to prevent violence and certain issues. We do have larger strategies of alternative police responses throughout the city, like our crisis alternative response team, which mainly address issues of folks who may be unhoused and have mental health issues and concerns, but may cause nuisances. Most certainly Urban Alchemy and the work that they're doing in the Tenderloin to help people navigate through the Tenderloin and to keep areas clean and protect people from any type of violence or other things that may exist. They have worked very well to do that in other areas across the city. And so if we see a trend where it's necessary in Bayview, that's most certainly something we can have more conversations about. I did increase resources for MTAP officers, which are security guards on the MTA, as well as for community ambassadors along the 3rd Street corridor and in Biz Valley, so that folks have people they can go to when they have questions, concern, or when they just need to navigate their community space.
That's great. Thank you very much. I think one of the other things that sort of comes to mind, there's been a stat that the biggest mental health care organization in California is our prisons. And so, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, one Southeast, I think there's Arthur B. Coleman, and there are other institutions that can sort of help with sort of mental health issues. But if I, for example, was in my condo and we had homeless people actually trying to sleep in our garages, right? And we actually had an intentional conversation amongst the owners and said, look, we actually don't want to call the police because we actually don't trust them, right? We don't want to be part of the problem. Who do we call, right? Is there, is it 311 really? Is there another number that we can actually get to, right? Like you talk about the other crisis hotlines, et cetera. Who can we talk to get people help and actually get our sort of issues sort of resolved?
So this is the one thing I don't like, because the crisis alternative response team is a great team. They have a counselor, they have medical professionals, they have someone who's able to deal with someone from nonprofit world that works and connects our unhoused community to services. It's a team that comes out You still have to call 911 for them. That is because there is no other system to separate that call. So CART will be dispatched out when you explain what the concern is and what the issue is. Ask for CART specifically. It's still dispatched through 911 because that's the system that we have in place. We've been working to get an alternative number and an alternative system, but that just takes, it's an expense and also a training thing that has to happen for us to have that separate number. So you would still call 911, request CART to come out versus the police.